Well, hello, everybody. It's just past morning, so I can't say good morning to you all. But my name is Dimity Dornan, and I'm the #1 moderator today. And then we have Professor Saeid Nahavandi coming along shortly afterwards. I'd like to welcome you to our FTSE Industry and Innovation Forum event today. The title is Promote, Establish, Translate and Scale a New Commercialisation Framework for Industry and Innovation. And I'd first like to acknowledge the country as we gather for this meeting from different places around Australia. I'd first like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which we meet. I'm joining you today from Meanjin, which is Brisbane, the land of the Turrbal and Yagara people. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who join us online today. As we share and discuss our knowledge and practices, we acknowledge the deep knowledge forever embedded in custodianship of country. A little bit of housekeeping, please. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and will be published on the FTSE Academy's YouTube channel. Should you have any questions, this is the important part. During the webinar, please utilise the Q&A function in the Zoom ribbon. We also encourage you to upvote any questions by liking them. So if you see a question that you see already recorded, if you could send them up the list by liking them. And now I'm going to pass you over to Professor Saeid Nahavandi. And just as a little note about the Industry and Innovation Forum, at FTSE we believe that Australia's productivity and competitiveness relies on an innovative industry sector that embraces research, technological innovation, and local and international collaboration. So introducing Professor Saeid Nahavandi, whose life has embodied that and who's my co-chair for Industry and Innovation. He's the most awarded space scientist in Australia today, and he's from the Swinburne University of Technology. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Dimity explained, PITS, let me say one sentence about each of those. So PITS, STEM empowered innovation to create emerging and/or disruptive technologies. And then E stands for establish, an idea bank, and a shark tank to identify and crystallize technology innovation. And T stands for translate innovations from the lab to the real world through startups, investment, and coaching. And finally, S stands for scale up the translated innovation to mature commercial technologies to meet the market demands. So STEM empowered innovation plays a crucial role in the creation of emerging and disruptive technologies, shaping the future of various industries. Today we have three eminent thought leaders participating in this session. We have Amy Lazala Zahr, Chief Engineer Rail from Department of Transport and Planning. Amy has been in rail since she graduated in 2007. In that time, she has worked in maintenance, design, and delivery. She started her career in materials and fire engineering. She then worked in RAMS and through line engineering. Amy has been in engineering governance for over 5 years, bringing together her learned experiences. And as a people leader, Amy focuses on enabling the individual to deliver for the team. Amy has a passion for sustainability and finding the balance for people, planet, and profit. Our second speaker is Professor Noushin Naziri. Professor Naziri is the head of the nanotech laboratory at the School of Engineering at Macquarie University, where she leads a large team of researchers. Her research is focused on design and fabrication of nanostructured materials for health, energy, and environmental applications. Noushin has received many awards, including one of Australia's 2021-22 Superstar STEM, 2021 Royal Society of New South Wales Warren Prize, and she's also passionate science communicator. Our third speaker is Professor Alan Wong, founder and CEO of IND Technologies. He invented and commercialized the award-winning EFD product that is used by utility companies around the world. The uptake of his patented technology has increased exponentially since 2013, from one single power utility to over 20 companies across Australia, Asia, Canada, and North America. With this short introduction, I will next invite each to make a brief presentation. Over to you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Saeid. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. First of all, what I'm going to talk about today is very much just my view. It's not anything related to the department, because I just wanted to talk about the beauty of STEM innovation, because it's something I'm very passionate about and something which I find the beauty of innovation in everyday scenarios, and it's where I get my nerd on, as we'd say. One recently literally happened last week, which I've just discovered and I love. There's a company in Melbourne, get to the next slide, called Merry People. They make very cute boots. A lot of my friends are very into these. This is completely separate, not promoting them at all. But one thing I found really interesting is when my friend was trying to buy them, she didn't know what size to get, and they had this new service available on their website, which said, scan this QR code and you can find out your best size in less than 2 minutes. I'm like, what's this about? So we clicked into it, and this is some very simple innovation, but it is so effective. And it's a system basically where you get a piece of A4 paper, you stand next to it in a particular way, and it gives you all the instructions as you go step by step. And if you don't have a piece of paper, they're looking at doing it with a credit card as well. And you take a photo, and based on the size of the paper, the size of your feet, they can work out your size and they recommend the size. So simple, so effective. But what makes it possible? Well, algorithms and maths and science. So simple. Because we know the size of an A4 piece of paper, we've got 2 fixed measurements right there. Based on looking at the feet, we can then use the table of what the common sizes are and provide people their shoe size. You don't even have to go into a shoe store. How beautiful is that innovation? Someone had a great idea and they've made it. As Professor Saeid is talking about, they've managed to translate it and scale it up and get it out there into the system, and it's being used. That's where I find the beauty in STEM innovation, because that is not possible without STEM knowledge behind it. Totally nothing to do with rail, but I just wanted to talk about that because I think outside of rail, there's a lot of different areas. Inside of rail, there's also many areas which are using innovation to improve everyday lives. But just take a look around you every day and you'll spot some beauty in STEM. In rail in particular, there's kind of 4 categories I've put. There's lots of innovation happening. There's 4 categories that I've put them into just to cover. There's things such as the more obvious traction power efficiency, alternate fuels, looking at how we can become carbon neutral in the rail system. We've got some diesel fleets down here in Victoria that we need to address. And then some more complex things such as brake blending, where we're looking at using friction braking and also regenerative braking, and to try and get the most out of what traction power we have available. And then asset condition. This is an area that I'm passionate about. One area that I've been in for most of my career is looking at how we can better manage the assets and improve maintenance as well of the assets. So there's many technologies in this area, getting more data. Basically, how can we access more data and how can we use data more effectively? So starting to monitor many mechanical parts such as the wheels, the doors, the air conditioning systems, the pantographs on the electrical units, but then also looking at things like BIM and using digital engineering. We've got a program at the moment in the department looking at digital engineering and how we can use models rather than drawings to better inform ourselves about our assets. And then there's the part which most people on the call will be interested in, which is the passenger experience piece, looking at real-time journey updates, infotainment, so not just advertising, but actually having news screens on the trains for those longer distances. And then things like onboard Wi-Fi. It sounds simple, but it's actually very complex to put into the trains. even just having, USB plugs for the trains, all of these types of little innovations that we have to then adapt and provide for the passenger experience. And another bit of a left field one is destination stations overseas. We've got Amazon parcel collection points at the station, so you don't actually have to go to the post office. You can collect your parcels at the station and make it part of the journey and part of your destination, not just a place to get the train. And then from a safety perspective, some brilliant innovation happening here. We've got intelligent CCTV systems, trespasser alert systems that we've introduced in Victoria. The passenger communication systems, it's no longer just it's no longer just an audio. We now link it in with the CCTV systems. We also have interlock doors and platform screen doors. So all of this is just a snapshot. Each of those items there have so much innovation and so much STEM behind them, all of which have had to be, as we're talking about with pets, tested in the lab, scaled up, managed to sell it. If you look purely at wheel condition monitoring, there's so many different products on the market. Each of those have been developed in the lab and then brought to market and commercialized, and they're being used and they're providing return on investment. So much work is happening in rail from innovation space, and there's still so much more to do. One that I'm conscious of time, so I'll just touch very quickly on this next topic. High capacity signaling. For anyone who's in Victoria, you might be hearing a lot about this with the new tunnel that's opening, because we've got high capacity signaling on that line. That's the steering wheel. We don't have those in trains, but the reason I put that on there is because someone looked at cruise control in the cars. Now we have adaptive cruise control, but even before, when we were just having pure cruise control of keeping the same speed, and we've basically translated that into the rail system. So we've got that innovation in the road space, in automotive, and now we're translating it into rail. Try not to get too much into rail technology because we've short on time, but the way it works in rail, at the moment, traditional signaling is fixed block, as in we have separate sections and you're only allowed one train in each section. So that means you can actually have a lot of wasted line and a wasted capacity of the network where you could fit another train in between. With high capacity signaling, we move to what's called to moving block. So based on adaptive cruise control, the train behind, which is following the one in front, based on what it knows about its speed and its braking curve, which is that blue line, and a little safety margin, how much space it needs between, it can accelerate and decelerate in line with what's happening with the train in front. And that way we can actually get more trains more often. So that's why if you're in Victoria, you hear more trains more often, or more trains through the tunnel. If you hear about high capacity signaling, that's what we're talking about. And that's only one of the many innovations happening in rail. But trust me, there is a huge amount of STEM going into that, and it's a very complex system, but it will bring huge benefits to the network. And I'm going to stop there before getting into more techniques. So thank you, Saeid.
Thank you very much, Amy. Really appreciate that. Our next speaker is Professor Nushin and Nasiri. Over to you, Nushin.
Thank you so much, Saeid. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the potential of wearable technologies and how they change the whole landscape, particularly the landscape of healthcare. But before I give you some example of these wearables, I want to start with this story. This is a story of a Swedish guy named Arne Larsen, and so he's a hero of this story, which is about the evolution of pacemaker. So he had a very he was suffering from very slow heartbeat. So he had only like 28 heartbeats in a minute, which is very slow compared to a normal human heartbeat. And he was actually having 20 to 30 daily attacks, which is bring a lot of challenges to his daily life. So back in 1958, the only option that this guy had was to use a very large stationary pacemaker to keep him alive. Back then, there was no battery, so the system was not battery powered, and it was actually using the electrical outlet in order to work. So he had to stay in the hospital, so he couldn't actually enjoy his life as he was hoping for. But what happened is that he was a very lucky, but at the same time, very brave person to volunteer to go through a surgery to try the first implanted a pacemaker in the world. So he actually did the surgery in October 1958, and this is the image of this is him, and this is the image of the first implanted pacemaker. He's done the surgery during the night because the pacemaker was not approved, so it was kind of a very risky and illegal surgery he went through. So the pacemaker worked, but they only worked for 3 hours. After 3 hours, he had to do another surgery and replace the pacemaker with a new one. The second one worked for 1 week. And again, over and over, he has been through 26 surgeries in his lifetime to replace the pacemakers which failed for one reason or another. But the cool thing is that he lived longer than his surgeon, and he lived longer than his innovator. So he died in December 2001, not from heart attack. He was 84-year-old when he died, and he died from skin cancer. So this story, I think, is a very impressive story of how an innovation changed people's life. Today we have more than 600,000 pacemakers being implanted in people every year, and it can be implanted in people with a wide range from 5-year-old to above 100-year-old. And today, the pacemaker that we're using, so you can actually see the evolution of the pacemaker, but today the pacemakers are smaller than 2 grams. They are battery powered, and they can last up to 8 years without a need to be replaced. And I think this is a very clear example of how STEM innovation, if they are commercialized, they would actually change the whole industry. And it's not only limited to pacemaker. We can bring up a lot of examples. Another example is the evolution of hearing aid from 1700 ear trumpet to a very tiny but very powerful invisible device that can be, you can actually see it here, this tiny antenna here. You can actually put it in your ear, it's invisible, and it can help thousands or maybe even millions of people all around the world who have hearing difficulties. But my research is more focused on miniaturized sensing technologies. This is also a research area which every single day we are lucky enough to get to know a new innovation that eventually will change the healthcare system. So here in this talk, I'm gonna quickly go through some of the most fascinating research in this area. So tear analysis, sweat analysis, and saliva analysis. And these ones at the bottom are the research that we're currently doing in my laboratory. Is a UV sensor which can pick up how much UV is absorbed by your skin to prevent skin cancer, and wide range of gas sensors which can be used for both healthcare and also in the environmental application. So in terms of tear analysis, people have done a lot of crazy innovation in this area. You can see I'm going to start from 2013, give you a couple of examples. So this is Google Lens. They even send it out to the market. Of course, they have to collect it from market to enhance the property and capability of the device. But the structure is quite simple. So there's a sensing sensor here, as you see, and then there's a capacitor antenna is around at the edges to not block the vision of the end user, and it can continuously analyze your tear and pick up some particular elements in your tear which might be relevant to some chemistry changes in your body. Another type of these technologies are the colorimetric technology, which the color of the sensor change based on the reaction of the sensing material with that particular target element in your tear, to make it easier for analyzing the color, whether this is pink or whether it is dark pink or the light pink. They even develop a smartphone app that you can take a photo of the contact lens, and then that one does the image analysis for you. The most advanced one is this one, which not only does the analysis for you, but also they added a little bit of a drug at the back of the sensor with the polymer and some electrodes, that if the level of the elements in your tear is higher than normal, then you can actually use the app, command the release of the drug, apply the voltage, the polymer at the back of the sensor can be melted and the drug can be released. So it can do some temporary treatment on the patient. In terms of sweat analysis, again, there are a wide range of devices. You can stick to your skin, and then this device is not battery powered. It works based on the NFC. It's very similar to how you pay, you purchase using your credit card. So you tap your phone to the device. It harvest the energy from the battery of your phone. The sensing part does the analysis, and then it transfers the data back to your phone. There's a wide range of them is being developed. They can even do multiple sensors embedded into one sensing technology and do multiple analysis. This version here has tiny micro needles that not only stick to your skin, but also penetrate a little bit into the deeper layers of your skin, so it can extract more information from your body. And then there's a saliva analysis. They also started from like almost 8-10 years ago. This is the first devices they developed, but then over time they try to make it even smaller. In the latest version, they even make it much smaller. It is battery powered here, so you can do the continuous analysis, for example, overnight, and they develop an app. You can also communicate with your app. This is my favorite technology. It is a pacifier. As you can see, one of the problems with kids is that it is a lack of communication. So they cry, but you don't really know what is actually going wrong with them. So this technology is directing the fluid in your saliva into the back of the pacifier, which they embedded the sensing technology over there, and then you can analyze the baby's saliva to see if they can pick up some elements. In my laboratory, so there are a lot of applications that we're working, but for today's talk, I'm just going to go through two of the most devices. One of them is gas sensing technology. We fabricate tiny sensors which are super porous. It's like a spongy, and then by doing that, we create a large surface area on the top of the sensor that we can enhance the sensitivity of the device. As you can see, we can even detect tens parts per billion of a gas in an atmosphere. We can even go lower, but we are confidently capable of detecting 10 or 5 parts per billion. And then it can be tailored to actually detect a wide range of gases. So currently I'm working with a couple of industry institutes that are funding this research. The first one is the Smart Green City. What we're doing is that we want to still embed, attach these sensors into plants or trees, and then we can actually analyze the gases in the environment around the tree. The other one is one of my very passionate industry partner. We've been working for 2 years. So they are a farming industry. What they do, they've designed and developed this device that they can capture breath from animals, and then they capture it in this bag. They can take it to their laboratory and they analyze the breath capture from the animal to see whether they can detect early pregnancy in animals. What we are working currently is that instead of having it as a two-step, capture the breath, move to the lab, and then do the analysis, we can embed sensors inside this device so they can actually run the in-situ analysis of breath. The same company, we're working on making like a station on the farm that they can actually analyze the different gases on the farm. And with the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Fellowship, I was privileged to receive funding from them to actually use it to analyze human breath. The concept is quite similar of the other project I've told you, but it is just focused on what type of gases you are interested to detect in human breath. And then the last one is my SunWatch project. Is a smart UV nanosensing technology, which I've been received funding from NSW Cancer Institute. What is the technology? The technology is a tiny device that we develop an app. So it is communicating with your app, and it measures how long you've been exposed to what level of UV. And based on that, we can actually estimate how much UV is absorbed by your skin during the day. And the app is designed in the way that will send you a text message if the level of UV absorbed by your skin is above the safe limits. You can also have the option of saving this data up to 3 months, and then you can go back and see how much UV was you absorbed. Like, for example, past week, after 3 months, the data automatically will be uploaded on clouds. This technology, we started a very long time ago, almost 10 years ago. So we started from the modeling and analytical analysis of how we can put these particles, because the sensor is made of nanoparticles, together, how we can actually make them perform better. And over time, as you can see here, we took them outside in a large PCB board, and then we tested to make sure that it is actually accurate. Then we make it smaller and then smaller, and then we develop an app. And this is the current version, but we are aiming to go and make it as a very tiny clippable device that can be clipped into your collar. And this is my last slide. So this is the SunWatch development form from 2020, when the first time that we actually had it as a wearable device with the app, the current version, which is this version, and then what we hope to be there in 1 or 2 years from now, that it is not only limited to a device it's wearing around the wrist, it can be attached to your sunglasses, to your collar, to your purse, and to your, it's going to be more user friendly. And of course, I'm very grateful of all these brilliant students who are resiliently and patiently doing their job in the laboratory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Naziri. Really appreciate that. Our next speaker is Professor Alan Wong. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Professor Alan Wong from RMIT University. I'm also the CEO and founder of IND Technology. So I will use the next 10 minutes to talk about my journey from Ballarat to Baltimore, and how I took an ARC discovery project and spin it off into a startup company in Melbourne. And now it is an international business with office in Melbourne, New York, and also in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So what I will show you is how STEM innovations can benefit community, in helping the export market of Australia, just a multiple benefit. So many people ask me, why would a professor want to start a company and going through all these difficulty and challenges. So I just want to show you 3 photos to start with. You're looking at a rural property north of Ballarat here in Victoria. You can see that there's a power line running through the property, and there's a house in the background. So we have installed the product that I've invented called the early fault detection system. The system detected high energy event somewhere in this section of the power line, and the energy level escalate day by day. And we decided to go and visit them after 2 weeks, and we say something is terrible is happening, we should go and visit. Just to give you an idea of the geographical location, the cross is where the power line is located. If the power line drop onto the ground, it could electrocute people and animals. On a hot summer day, it can actually spark a bushfire, and you can see the state forest in the background. Once the fire starts, you cannot stop it. It is too challenging to fight that fire. So what the system found is a broken wire. You can see the picture on your left-hand side. I actually took this picture myself. I was so close to the power line because it actually dangled down from the line about 1.5 meters. It was very close to me. I have to took a few steps back. We called the power utility immediately. We fixed a really big problem on their network. And later on, the property owner came out to find out what we were doing. So we actually met Michael in the photo, and Michael was saying that he was driving his tractor below this section of power line just the day before, and even the grandchildren were playing around this section of power line. So this is a really good example of how STEM innovations can turn into a product and benefit the community. Just to give you an idea, I spin off the company about 10 years ago, and currently the company has about 30 engineers. We are launching the 4th generation of our product to the world. Like Saeid mentioned, we have 20+ customers across 5 countries. And in fact, the total addressable market that this technology is around $219 billion. It will be good to capture just 1% of that market. So just to give you an idea, the management team is made of actually 2 professors. Professor Tony Maxson is a professor at Monash University, and we have other industry professional help us to run the company. So the red dots that you're seeing on the screen are where our system is deployed. You can see actually we have just added Western Australia to this map, and also Baltimore. So that's where the story comes from. So in the US, we have customers in the East Coast, Midwest, and also West Coast of United States. And every 3 months, we are getting another new utility company. So the product that we offer and the technology is very disruptive to the industry, because instead of waiting for a fault to happen, the system can predict when a fault will occur. So it's a predictive technology. It sits on the left-hand side of this curve. So before a loss of control event happens, the system will inform the asset owner to say, hey, you have problem happening. So the industry customer come to us for various reasons. They have a public safety concern, they have an aging infrastructure, and so on. So we have quite a lot of market traction over the past 5 years. So all these logos are our current customers. In fact, I heard of, just listen to the first talk, Melbourne Tunnel will install the product along the 9 kilometers tunnel from end to end. So the product is covering the whole Melbourne Metro Tunnel, and yeah, the installation has completed, actually just started recently. So the system itself is a combination of Internet of Things technology, smart sensors. As you can see the picture on the right-hand side, high voltage engineering, and the core technology is actually cloud computing. So the data is being pushed from the sensor to AWS server, where a lot of the magic happens. So we have a lot of patented algorithm running in the cloud server, and the algorithm will tell us exactly what are the issues that we are dealing with and where it is. The most amazing feature of this technology is that it can narrow down an emerging fault to a ±10 meters accuracy. So in the industry term, it's like we can pinpoint exactly where things are failing. So these are some of the picture of our recent installation in North America. So we design and build all this in Melbourne, and we export them to the US. This is a application in the sub-transmission line. This photo was taken in Missouri at Amaranth Network, and this particular feeder supply, I believe, is a AWS data center in that part of America. So So if you're not familiar with Powerline, I just want to show you a photo of what an early fault looked like. So we install the monitoring system to monitor this part of Powerline in North California, right in the middle of Napa Valley. So you are looking at the power line on top of Mount St. Helena, and the system identified an issue right there. As you can see, the system able to pinpoint a potential issue, but to the normal eyes, you can't really see the problem until you zoom in. There you go. So it is a broken wires. The best technology in the world would not be able to see defect like this. Usually they can see conductor on the ground. Then it's all too late. So that's. I have 2 more minutes. I just want to quickly cover a bit of the commercial journey that I went through over the past 15 years. The journey go through ideation, validation, startup, scale up, and so on. And so we are now in the stage 5, in the scale up phase. We think we are way past the startup, and the whole journey all started from an ARC discovery project. And then just, believe in yourself and have a bit of entrepreneurial spirit. I've managed to spin off a company, gathered support from various stakeholders, and basically making it happen. So yeah, and the entrepreneurship, it is a roller coaster thing. It's not always smooth sailing. There are lots of ups and downs. And if I have time, I'm happy to share what I've gone through in each phase of this commercialized journey. But for today's talk, I will stop here. Saeid, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. And so now we actually move to the next part of our activity, and this part includes a series of question and answers and discussion panel, and we invite our participant to pose and put question in the chat. So there is a first question that I think you have all touched on, that is, are there any successful examples of STEM-empowered innovation that have led to disruptive technologies, and how they have transformed industries or impacted society? So open to maybe, I don't know who wants to go first. Should we, Amy, would you like to? Yes.
I'll jump in, and obviously you're going to be talking from a rail perspective. I think the biggest I wouldn't say it's a disruption, but what we're seeing now is the passenger experience piece. There's lots of innovation, as I mentioned, across rail in a number of areas, but I think the passenger experience piece, we're finding it's really becoming a competitive area. So when we talk about disruptions, it's where, it's not us leading the change, we're being led by the change, and we have to develop and adapt to what the customer is asking for. Passenger experience now is such a key factor for public transport, particularly for longer distances, making sure there is Wi-Fi available, making sure there are charging points available. This is not just in Australia, this is around the world. And as I mentioned about destination stations, those, as soon as one service provides it, it's then expected. And an example of this is the smart ticketing systems. So we have Mikey here in Victoria, but in Sydney and elsewhere around the world, you can use your credit card, or you can just use your phone now, just pay pass your way through it. You don't need to have a specific travel card. Well, that's, it's in the news, we're recently sorting out a new ticketing contract, and that's part of the ticketing contract because it's expected now from the passengers. We have to adapt because it's been disrupted. Someone's done it somewhere else. It's now an expectation. The system's been disrupted. We have to adapt and we have to change.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can actually add into that, like the I think a smartphone is a very good example on how smartphone actually change everything, change the way that we socialize, change the way that we communicate, change our learning system, for example, at university. And the other obvious example, I think, is the AI is also a kind of the disruptive technology that we have to adapt. So for example, from my perspective as a university teacher, when I go to the classroom, so now after the AI, after ChatGPT, we have to adapt with this innovation and change the entire learning and teaching style to kind of consider that, yes, now this technology is available, this opportunity is available. How can I still make sure that my students will be able to get the same learning outcome from my unit, considering that now they have ChatGPT available to them?
Thank you. Alan, would you like to comment on this question?
Yeah, I would like to think that the EFT technology is a disruptive piece of technology. I think there are lots of disruptive technologies being introduced every year, but it's really hard to penetrate like a big industry, like for example, the power industry, where they are very conservative. Actually, now, if you ask me who is the biggest competitor, our biggest competitors are linesmen inspecting the lines still with using a binoculars every 2 years or every 5 years. So yeah, disruptive technology, I think we should continue to push the envelope as an innovator and educate the industry to say, hey, try this, it is possible to transform, and we can help you and guide you along the journey. Yeah, I'm living through this every day. So.
Fantastic. So we have one question here in the chat that how much of the train innovation comes originally from the leading European railway systems such as Switzerland, Italy, Germany?
There's quite a bit. I'd absolutely say that it's not just from the European space, but also elsewhere. Asia's got a huge amount of innovation happening in the rail space, particularly places like Singapore, where they're size limited, they're trying to get the most efficient network possible. A lot of the technologies that we're seeing, particularly from an asset management perspective, have actually really been taken up by Asia versus Europe, and so that's where the innovation is coming from. Full disclosure, Australia isn't the most innovative in rail. We do wait for others to prove it before we take it on board ourselves. There's a certain level of conservatism there. There's a certain level of funding reasons there. There's a number of different items of why that's the case. But yes, we do take a lot of innovation from elsewhere around the world. One of the key ones we're taking at the moment is ETCS, the European Train Control System. Again, that's now going to be the high capacity signaling system here in Victoria. And that is by the EC. So it's called the European Train Control System. We're taking innovation from Europe.
Thank you for that. So we have another question for those in university positions. What was the most important support you got from your university? Very interesting question. I guess this goes to Nasheen and Alan, perhaps.
I think from my because I'm a pure university person, so I think Alan probably will answer it differently. But for me, I think I'm gonna categorize them in two categories. The first one is when you are a very junior academic at the university. So then I think two things are very critical. The first one is the fostering and mentoring environment, because you really need to be supported and to be guided in most of the decisions that you're making as a very young leader or very young, let's say, researcher, inventor. And the second one is funding. Even if you receive the best advice or the best mentorship, if there is no resources available, I think you're going to be very limited. Maybe when you get become more senior at the university, you're gonna have you probably don't need significant support in terms of mentorship and guidance, but then I think you will be in a position to, because now you are tackling the grand challenges and you are thinking bigger than when you were a junior academic. So I think the need for research funding and support is the most important things in your career.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Nostrin. Funding is really important. Without funding, I mean, without the ARC Discovery funding, I can't build the first prototype, you know, and you know, I would not get support from the industry to try it out and take the risk. And actually, then when you decide to commercialize, being a academic staff from the university actually does help. You know, when you say I'm from so and so university, at least they open doors for us to go in, and the rest is up to us. How good we pitch to them, right? It's a lot of communication skill and marketing skill. And the university has a really good environment, especially in recent years. We start to talk about research impact and things like that. So I think, yeah, you need to ask, and the support will come. I think, you know, a lot of people never ask and say, I do not know where to find. I think it's important to ask for the support, and yeah, you should be able to find it.
Thank you. Next question, how do emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and biotechnology impact the STEM landscape? And how can we promote the responsible adoption and ethical use of these technologies? And who wants to go first? And especially I'm interested on ethical use of these technology, because that ethics is becoming so important.
I'll avoid the ethical space. I'll leave that probably for Professor Nashin, more so in her space. But I think there's huge benefits to AI. I mean, the presentations today, we've seen about the Internet of Things and the amount of data analytics you can do with AI and the huge amount of benefits that brings. Again, from an asset condition perspective, that when we're talking about all the data analytics on monitoring the railway and getting those alerts, everything which is foundational to either nanotechnology or as the early fault detection or in monitoring a railway, it all comes down to sensors, getting the data, analyzing the data, and providing an alert. It's the same across all three of our industries. And that is only possible given the technologies available with AI, Internet of Things, blockchain, all of those. So huge amounts of benefits from the ethics side. Again, in rail, there's not too many ethical ways to use it, so I'll leave that to the other two to talk about.
Sure. In terms of the ethic, of course, ethics is a very important fact that we always need to consider. I think the best thing that we can do, and we must do from a very young age, like especially in our training program with the future STEM leaders of this country, is to make sure that the ethic consideration is ethics, the importance of ethics and also ethic awareness is actually being embedded into our education and into our training system. So then from the very young age, when they've been introduced into, like, for example, I'm an engineer, and engineering discipline, from the very first units we teach to our students, we try to nurture them as a problem solver. We really encourage the design, the innovation, and tackling the problem, being creative. I think we also have to have the same emphasis on now you have this brilliant idea. How can you address for example, the privacy issue? How can you address the ethical side of your innovation? So I think if we start from very very first step, very early, and this is the kind of become a part of the entire foundation. I think we will be able, by the time that these innovations become ready to go to the commercialization, it's not the time that they just start thinking about, okay, this is a ethical consideration we have to have. They've already had it during the entire development journey. So I think that would be the part of the whole innovation, to also have the ethical address.
Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, interesting question. So when I first started this company, the second engineer that I hired is a data scientist, specialized in machine learning, and we were looking into that. But in fact, until now, we haven't implemented the AI algorithm. Within our team, many of us still believe in first principle of engineering. But now, in recent years, all these IoT sensors coming online, you can do a lot of ML modeling and things like that. But in certain industry, I think it will still be a challenge. Yeah, like, do you trust the AI to make a decision to shut down a power network? They would want to see 20 parameters or even 200 solid data set before they look at the AI decision. So yeah, I think it's still a long way to go.
Thank you for that. So we have another question. What strategies can companies adopt to attract and retain top STEM talent, fostering a culture of innovation within their organizations? Who would like to go first?
I can talk about from company point of view. I'm kind of like moving away from academia to industry. So we have this guideline to invest 20% of the revenue, even though as a very tiny company with, a few $100,000 revenue, we would still, at the time, we are investing 20% of the revenue into R&D. So then you can use those money to attract talent. And other thing that we do here is we created what we call like a innovative or creative office environment, where we encourage people to explore, to be themselves in the workplace, rather than, hey, now you are in the industry, you are an engineer. So we kind of carry the R&D culture from the university into the company, and it seems to work really well, like especially the young. We have 7 PhD graduate working in the company, and they seems to like the culture. So yeah.
Amazing.
That's good. Yeah, and I agree with Professor on that. I think we've got to keep STEM people's brains interested and keep advice. If you get one, they get a specialty. Fair enough, they want to keep in that specialty, that's okay and great. They can go on that progression. But what I find, particularly in the rail industry, is that people are interested in getting involved in different projects and learning constantly and making sure that we're actually feeding that brain so that they can keep adapting and keep growing. And it's a challenge, but I think if you do that and you provide them and you enable them to keep growing, they'll stick around. And another thing that comes to mind is the classic Steve Jobs quote of "Don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. Hire smart people and let them tell you what to do." I think the best way to keep hold of good STEM talent is, as I said, is enable them and listen to them and take on their advice, because often they do really know what they're talking about. And if they don't understand the commercial side, you can guide them in that way. But when it comes to their area of specialty, you should really listen to them.
Thank you. Nishin, would you like, I know you don't, you may have a company, I haven't asked, but would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think I really like the fact that Amy said, when you're hiring talent people, let them not guide the company, but let them have significant input in the company, because if they're talented, the point of hiring all this talent is to bring a lot of new ideas and expertise on the table, and that will foster the company. So I think the leadership team in the company should be very open towards receiving suggestion, and even if that suggestion is actually against the company's vision, or against it, not the vision but the company's initial plan. So I think those type of companies, they will be able to actually get grand challenges being tackled in a real world.
Yeah. So I just want to say we have something like a sandpit, you know. They really like to have a space where they can explore, try different things, and fail and fail and fail, and not getting criticized by the management and say, well, why are you wasting time? Just to give you an example, we recently recruited a FPGA expert with a PhD. It's like he's overqualified, and you know, we give him time for him to find his space around, and it took him almost 9 months to say, oh, I did not know you can do this. I now say, I so really understand them, and they can be a great asset to the company. So, yeah.
I just want to add something. I mean, myself, I'm leading a research team, so it's quite different than a company. But what we have as a culture is that if the mistakes that you are making is the first time in the lab, no one has done that mistake before, you've been awarded. So I bought them coffee and pastry because that is excellent. And then we have a folder of the things that do not work. And then we actually write a paragraph or two about, okay, don't do this, this is not going to work, or don't do this, this is going to be leading to failure. But if it's the second time that someone is doing the same mistake in the lab, they have to buy coffee for everyone else. So I think we try to kind of embrace mistakes. This is a mistake, is absolutely fine, but you're not allowed to actually repeat the same mistake which has been done before, and it is being documented before. So I think, yeah, I think that will be able to kind of, they're not going to be scared of making a mistake, and they're happy to try different things. But of course, we also have to be efficient in how many times we make the same mistakes.
Fantastic. Maybe we go around for any final remarks before we close. I go to you, Amy, first.
Thanks. No, it's been a really interesting session. I've really enjoyed listening to the other presenters as well, and what they're doing in their fields. And again, it really makes me excited about STEM, and just the beauty of innovation that we have from these fields, like from just STEM as a discipline. It's absolutely fantastic, and I will never stop getting nerdy about STEM technologies.
Thank you. And Nushin?
Yeah, thank you so much. I also really enjoyed being a part of this webinar, and thanks to Alan and Amy for their fascinating talk. I want to ask our audience to please be the advocate for having more girls in STEM, especially in engineering. We are way below the standard average for the globe. We really need women in engineering, not just because we want to be 50-50 in everything, which is actually pretty cool. We really need women because engineers design a lot of product that we're using every day, from cars, from watches around your wrist, from the smartphones. And if women are not sitting around the table, in fact, if we don't have diversity in any level around the table, we're going to miss the design, that product in terms of the design is going to be lacking the unique the needs of a particular group in the society. Very quickly, an example, the seat belt that is designed in many cars is designed based on men bodies, because the dummy test they tested is a man body, and that's why women die more frequently, and they have a higher risk of being injured during the accident, just because the seatbelt is not designed based on their body, and also the airbag is not designed based on their body. So we really need women to be around the table when we're designing this. So more women in engineering, please.
I agree 100%.
One more thing, actually, just to add to that, another flaw that happened through missing diversity in design is the sensors on your taps. Like if you go to a public bathroom and you've got those sensor taps and sensor soap, they were only designed for white skin. And that's a huge huge gap of, you know, most of society is not able to use that system because there wasn't the diverse group in the design team.
Yeah.
We really need diversity in design.
Amy, I think we have to have a webinar about talking about all these design that fail the society.
Absolutely.
I think we can bring hundreds of examples.
Yeah.
Alan, do you have any final remarks before?
Yeah, I think STEM people have this stereotype thinking that it's about mathematics and science. I think it's really about, to be honest, it's about changing the world, making the world a better place. And, you know, we might not become Elon Musk, but, you know, if you can change something that improves someone's life, make their life safer, more enjoyable, I think STEM is all about that. Without that, we are kind of stagnant. So, yeah, and women engineering, I'm a big supporter of that. We hire 4 or 5 female engineers recently, so they're all female.
Thank you very much. So we have almost run out of time. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their wonderful insight, and thank you very much, and a good day to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.